The Journey to Madyan Musa's Life in Exile, Part 1. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to the channel. Tonight we are not telling the story of a king. We are not telling the story of a conqueror. We are not even telling the story of a prophet at the height of his mission. Instead, we are telling the story of a man who had lost everything. A man who walked alone into a desert with no army, no wealth, no shelter, and no certainty about tomorrow. Imagine this for a moment. One day you live in the most powerful kingdom on earth. The next day you're walking through an endless wilderness, looking over your shoulder, unsure whether death is following behind you. What would you do? How would you survive? And what if that lonely journey was actually preparing you for one of the greatest missions in human history? This is the story of Musa Moses alayhi salam and his extraordinary journey to Madyan. A journey filled with fear, faith, sacrifice, hardship, and divine preparation. Stay until the end, because what happened in Madyan would transform Musa Moses alayhi salam from a hunted traveler into the man who would one day stand before Pharaoh himself. Our story begins on a lonely road leading away from Egypt. Behind Musa Moses alayhi salam stood the towering monuments of a mighty empire. Before him stretched hundreds of miles of uncertainty. The young man who walked that road had once been raised inside Pharaoh's palace. His childhood had been unlike that of any other Israelite. Allah had saved him from death as an infant. Placed in a basket by his mother. Protected on the Nile. Raised in the house of the very tyrant who wanted him dead. Yet despite growing up among Egyptian royalty, Musa Moses alayhi salam never forgot who he truly was. He belonged to the descendants of Abraham alayhi salam. Through Ishaq Isaac alayhi salam, and Yaqub Jacob alayhi salam came the children of Israel. These were his people. These were the oppressed. These were the people suffering under Pharaoh's cruelty. Then came the incident that changed everything. A conflict, a moment of intervention, an accidental death. A warning from a sincere believer, and suddenly Musa Moses alayhi salam found himself forced to leave Egypt. The Quran describes him leaving in fear, watching carefully for danger. This detail is important. Islamic history does not hide the human emotions of the prophets. Fear is not weakness. Fear is part of being human. Courage is moving forward despite fear. And that is exactly what Musa Moses alayhi salam did. As he left Egypt behind, he made a heartfelt prayer. My Lord, save me from the wrongdoing people. The desert swallowed him. Days passed. The fertile lands of Egypt gradually disappeared. The green banks of the Nile became distant memories. In front of him stretched a harsh landscape of rocks, mountains, and endless sand. There were no modern roads, no hotels, no vehicles, no maps. Every step required trust. Every mile tested endurance. Yet Allah was guiding him. Even though Musa Moses alayhi salam could not yet see it, many people think miracles only happen when seas split or staffs become serpents. But sometimes the greatest miracle is Allah guiding a lost traveler toward exactly the place he needs to be. Musa Moses alayhi salam continued toward Madyan. This region was located east of Egypt, near the northwestern Arabian Peninsula. It was known as a trading center. Caravans passed through its territory. Merchants traveled its routes. And generations before Musa Moses alayhi salam, the prophet Shu'aib Jethro alayhi salam had preached there. By the time Musa Moses alayhi salam approached Madyan, exhaustion had become his constant companion. His feet were sore. His body was weak. His provisions were likely running low. But what awaited him there would change his life forever. As he entered the area, he noticed a large gathering near a well. This was not unusual. In desert regions, water meant survival. Where there was water, there were people. Where there were people, there were animals. The well was crowded. Shepherds moved their flocks. Voices filled the air. Dust rose beneath countless hooves. Yet something unusual caught Musa's attention. Two young women stood apart from the crowd. Their animals remained behind them. Unlike the other shepherds, they were waiting, patiently, quietly, respectfully. Musa Moses, peace be upon him, immediately noticed their difficulty. Even in his exhausted condition, concern for others remained part of his character. He approached them respectfully. What is your situation? He asked. The women explained. They could not water their flock until the shepherds finished. Their father was elderly and unable to perform the task himself. Notice something remarkable here. Musa Moses, peace be upon him, had every reason to focus on himself. He was hungry, tired, alone, far from home. Yet he still stopped to help someone else. This is one of the qualities that distinguished the prophets. Their hardships never prevented them from serving others. Without expecting payment, recognition, or reward, Musa, Moses, peace be upon him, stepped forward. The task that challenged many others seemed simple in his powerful hands. Within a short time, the animals had been watered. The women could return home, and Musa, Moses, peace be upon him, quietly withdrew. No boasting, no conversation, no demand for compensation, just sincere help. Then he sat beneath the shade of a tree. At that moment, the weight of everything finally settled upon him. The danger, the uncertainty, the loneliness, the exhaustion. Imagine him sitting there, a former resident of Pharaoh's palace, now resting beneath a tree with nothing except faith. And there, beneath that tree, he made one of the most beautiful prayers in Islamic history. My Lord, truly I am in need of whatever good you send down to me. This prayer was not merely about food. It was about guidance, protection, companionship, security, a future, everything. Musa, Moses, peace be upon him, placed all of his needs before Allah. And Allah answered almost immediately. Not with gold, not with a palace, not with an army, but with something far more valuable, a door of opportunity. A short time later, one of the young women returned. She approached modestly. Her words carried unexpected news. My father invites you so he may reward you for helping us. For Musa, Moses, peace be upon him, this invitation represented hope. Perhaps for the first time since leaving Egypt, he felt that Allah was opening a new chapter in his life. He followed her to her home. Little did he know that this meeting would completely reshape his future. Inside that humble household lived an elderly and righteous man. Many Islamic scholars identify him as Prophet Shu'aib Jethro, peace be upon him, while others believe he was a righteous elder from the people of Madyan. Whatever the case, he was a man of wisdom, faith, and noble character. When Musa, Moses, peace be upon him, arrived, he shared his story. He spoke of Egypt, of Pharaoh, of the accidental incident, of the threat against his life, of his lonely journey. The old man listened carefully. Then he smiled reassuringly. Do not fear, you have escaped from the wrongdoing people. Imagine hearing those words after weeks of fear. Those words must have felt like water to a thirsty traveler. For the first time since leaving Egypt, Musa, Moses, peace be upon him, could breathe without constantly looking over his shoulder. For the first time, he was safe. Yet Allah's blessings were only beginning, because within that household, a new future was waiting for him. A future he never expected. A future that would prepare him for prophethood itself. And that is where Part 2 begins. The journey to Madyan Musa's life in exile. Part 2. Welcome back. In Part 1, we left Musa Moses alayhi salam standing at the threshold of a new life. The fearful journey from Egypt was over. The long days of uncertainty had ended. For the first time since leaving Pharaoh's kingdom, he had found safety. But Allah was not merely giving Musa Moses alayhi salam a place to rest. Allah was preparing him for something far greater. A mission that would change history. A mission that would shake the throne of Pharaoh. A mission that would inspire billions of people for thousands of years. Yet before that mission could begin, Musa Moses alayhi salam needed preparation, and Madyan would become the school in which Allah would prepare his future prophet. The elderly man who welcomed Musa Moses alayhi salam listened carefully to his story. He saw something special in the young traveler. He saw strength. He saw honesty. He saw dignity. Most importantly, he saw faith. Meanwhile, one of his daughters made an observation that would become one of the most famous statements in Islamic history. She said, "Father, hire him. Surely the best person you can hire is the one who is strong and trustworthy." Strength and trustworthiness. These two qualities form the foundation of leadership. A person may be strong without honesty. Such a person becomes dangerous. A person may be honest without strength. Such a person struggles to protect others. But when strength and trustworthiness come together, leadership flourishes. Musa Moses alayhi salam possessed both. The elderly man then made an extraordinary proposal. He offered one of his daughters in marriage to Musa Moses alayhi salam. In return, Musa Moses alayhi salam would work for him for a number of years. Think about how quickly Allah transformed his situation. Only weeks earlier he had been alone in the desert. Now he was being offered family, security, employment, a future. This is one of the beautiful lessons of the story. Sometimes Allah closes one door only to open another far better than we imagined. Musa Moses alayhi salam accepted, and so began a peaceful chapter of his life. For years he lived among the people of Madyan. The palace life of Egypt faded into memory. The political intrigues of Pharaoh's court disappeared behind him. Instead, he lived a simple life, a humble life, a life connected to nature, a life connected to responsibility. Many reports indicate that Musa Moses alayhi salam worked as a shepherd. To modern minds, this may seem ordinary, but throughout prophetic history, shepherding was one of the greatest schools of leadership. A shepherd learns patience. A shepherd learns responsibility. A shepherd learns vigilance. A shepherd learns how to guide the weak without harshness. A shepherd learns to remain calm during danger. These are exactly the qualities required to lead people. Years passed. The deserts of Madyan became familiar. The mountains became familiar. The daily routines became familiar. Yet beneath the surface, Allah was shaping his prophet. Every challenge carried wisdom. Every year added experience. Every responsibility developed character. When Musa Moses alayhi salam was young, he possessed strength. Now he was gaining wisdom. When he lived in Egypt, he understood power. Now he was learning patience. When he lived in Pharaoh's palace, he knew privilege. Now he understood humility. The future leader of the children of Israel was being prepared step by step. Without realizing it, Musa Moses alayhi salam was moving closer to the greatest moment of his life. Eventually, the agreed years of service came to an end. The time had come to travel again. This journey would be very different from the one that brought him to Madyan. Years earlier, he had arrived alone. Now he had a family. Years earlier, he had been afraid. Now he carried experience and maturity. Years earlier, he had been escaping danger. Now he was unknowingly approaching destiny. Musa Moses alayhi salam gathered his family and began the journey. The route led through rugged terrain. Mountains rose against the horizon. The nights were cold. The desert winds swept across the landscape. Then, one night, something extraordinary happened. Darkness covered the land. The cold intensified. The path became difficult to follow. Suddenly, Musa Moses alayhi salam noticed a light in the distance. A fire. It flickered against the darkness. Hope immediately entered his heart. Perhaps there were travelers nearby. Perhaps he could ask for directions. Perhaps he could bring back a burning branch to warm his family. He turned to them and said, "Stay here. I have seen a fire. Perhaps I can bring you news from it, or a burning brand that you may warm yourselves." Then he walked toward the light. Each step carried him closer to an event unlike anything in human history. The fire appeared ordinary from a distance. But as he approached, he realized something was different. The flames burned, yet they did not consume. The light shone, yet it seemed beyond explanation. Then suddenly he heard a voice, "Musa." Imagine that moment. The desert became silent. The mountains stood still. Time itself seemed to pause. The creator of the heavens and the earth was addressing Musa Moses alayhi salam directly. No human language can fully capture the greatness of this moment. Allah had chosen him. Allah had honored him. Allah had selected him for prophethood. The lonely traveler who once fled Egypt was now receiving revelation from his Lord. Allah instructed him to remove his sandals. He was standing in the sacred valley of Tuwa. Every detail of that night carried significance. Every word changed history. Then Allah informed Musa Moses alayhi salam of his mission. But before giving him that mission, Allah showed him signs that would strengthen his certainty, signs that would later challenge Pharaoh. Allah instructed Musa Moses alayhi salam to throw down his staff. The staff struck the ground. Immediately it transformed into a living serpent, a powerful creature moving before his eyes. Instinctively, Musa Moses alayhi salam stepped back. This reaction reminds us that prophets were human beings. They experienced surprise. They experienced emotion. They experienced natural human responses. Allah then reassured him, Do not fear. Moses alayhi salam obeyed. The miracle became a source of confidence rather than fear. Next, Allah instructed him to place his hand inside his garment. When he removed it, it shone brilliantly. Not from disease, not from injury, but as a miraculous sign. Two miracles, two powerful signs, two pieces of evidence for the mission ahead. Then came the command that changed everything. Go to Pharaoh. Pause for a moment and think about those words. Pharaoh, the ruler from whom Moses alayhi salam had escaped, the man who once sought his death, the tyrant who enslaved the children of Israel, the ruler who claimed divinity. Allah was commanding Moses alayhi salam to return, not as a refugee, not as a fugitive, not as a former prince, but as a prophet. This was one of the greatest assignments ever given to a human being. Moses alayhi salam immediately understood the enormity of the task. He knew Pharaoh's power. He knew Pharaoh's arrogance. He knew Pharaoh's cruelty. So he turned to Allah in one of the most beautiful supplications in the Quran. My Lord, expand for me my chest. Ease my task for me. Untie the knot from my tongue, so that they may understand my speech. What a remarkable prayer. Notice what Moses alayhi salam requested. He did not ask for wealth. He did not ask for armies. He did not ask for worldly power. He asked for clarity, confidence, wisdom, and the ability to communicate truth. Then he made another request. He asked that his brother Harun alayhi salam assist him. Harun alayhi salam was eloquent in speech. Moses alayhi salam understood the value of teamwork. Even prophets sought support when carrying great responsibilities. Allah accepted his prayer. The mission would be shared. The brothers would stand together, united by faith, united by revelation, united by purpose. At that moment, the years in Madyan suddenly made sense. The exile, the loneliness, the shepherding, the waiting, the preparation, none of it had been random. Allah had been preparing his prophet from the very beginning. The young man raised in Pharaoh's palace needed humility. The strong young man needed patience. The traveler needed experience. The future leader needed wisdom. Madyan provided all of it. This is one of the deepest lessons in the life of Moses alayhi salam. Often we only understand Allah's wisdom when looking backward. During hardship we see confusion. Afterward we see purpose. When Moses alayhi salam first entered Madyan, he probably saw only uncertainty. Years later, he could see divine preparation. The exile had become training. The hardship had become strength. The waiting had become wisdom. Soon Moses alayhi salam would begin the journey back toward Egypt. But this time, everything was different. The frightened man who once looked over his shoulder was gone. In his place stood a prophet of Allah, a messenger carrying revelation, a servant chosen to challenge the greatest tyrant of his age. The road ahead would bring miracles, confrontations, trials, victories, and one of the most dramatic struggles between truth and falsehood in human history. Yet none of it would have happened without Madyan. Without those years of exile, without those years of preparation, without the lessons learned in silence. The story of Moses alayhi salam reminds us that Allah's plan is always greater than our understanding. What appears to be an ending may actually be a beginning. What appears to be a setback may actually be preparation. What appears to be exile may actually be the road to destiny. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through Islamic history, make sure to subscribe, share this video, and join us for future episodes as we continue exploring the remarkable lives of Allah's prophets. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.